Thank you.
Hugh Hewitt is an NBC News political analyst and host of the Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network. Cornell Belcher, Democratic pollster, and Michelle Sindor is a national reporter for the New York Times and an MSNBC contributor as well. Hugh, I'll start with you because you heard, I feel like I was just in another world. Under normal political circumstances, all the advice that Andy Card gave, he wouldn't have had to give that advice because political practitioners 101 would have been following that. They're not following that today. They're acting guilty in the way they're dealing with Kushner.
Well, they're acting certainly inexperienced. I don't actually believe that they believe themselves to be guilty, but they do believe themselves to be persecuted, and that's not the right attitude. Right now, they need to put points on the board in Congress. They need to go back and work on legislation, not respond every day to that which they cannot control, which is the Mueller investigation. Go and sit down with Ryan and McConnell and say, we need a tax bill in a hurry, a small one. Just put some points on the board. We have 15 vacancies on the Circuit Court of Appeals. Put some nominations into play. Do some of the normal blocking and tackling of governing. Get out of crisis mode.
What can your beat is in many ways the sort of the substance of what they're trying to get done. You know, you're not normally covering characters. You're trying to get at the policy substance. What point on the scoreboard can they get?
Well, here's the problem. Andy Card said something that I thought was really interesting. He said that this is not a White House problem, except it is a White House problem. When I talk to so many Republicans, when I talk to people who are interested in poverty legislation, interested in housing legislation, they all want to get something done, except that they have a president that is continuing to tweet about things that are being handled by a special prosecutor. And then you have Sean Spicer not saying what Andy Card said, which is, you know what, this is being handled by an outside group. We're going to let them do their job. Instead, he's saying, I'm not going to confirm this right now, but I'm also not going to give you the facts. So really, it is a White House problem. The White House itself is in crisis mode, and they're not handling this crisis very well. So Republicans that I've talked to are super frustrated that they aren't getting anything done. And this is the moment where they should be able to get things done.
This is the window.
Yeah. You know, not saying anything's not tenable, right? We are at a different place in our politics right now with this investigation. Look, 101 here, you do have to get out the facts, and you do have to get in front of a narrative. I don't know what the White House's narrative is right now. And that's unbelievable to me that all this time you have a press secretary standing up saying, you know what, I don't want to talk about that, I don't want to. You can't do that in Washington. The feeding frenzy gets crazier. Look, the president's new numbers, he is plus 20 points underwater right now on honesty, and every time they stand up in front and they sort of say, well, we don't want to talk about this, the hole gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
And they're in this bad place, Hugh, where now you have, remember, the White House staff is made up of people who mostly were not on the campaign. And by the way, Russia has not come into the White House outside of Jared. Because many of those folks weren't on the campaign. You know, it hasn't touched Kellyanne, it hasn't touched Bannon, because most of it, if it happened, the assumption is it happened before they ever came in. Do you get the sense that the staff is frustrated because they don't know the full story?
Well, I saw a senior staffer on Saturday night. They're not. They actually believe they had a very, very good trip. I do believe that crisis will set in. If Reince Priebus is, as Axios tips today, Axios.com, about to leave, I think that would be a crisis point, an inflection point where people just flee the ship.
Because do you think well, is that mostly because Reince seeded the place with people that he hired?
Yes, and he has the connection to McConnell and to Speaker Ryan. So he is their legislator.
So that blows up Washington.
That blows up Washington, and then I think I come back here and say, what a nightmare. I want to add Graham Allison.
And you are trying. You give them more, you know.
I try. Graham Allison said on the show today, we have a slow-motion Cuban Missile Crisis on the Korean Peninsula. We have a real crisis going on, and we ought to be focused on that and on the legislative and analytics, not on the Russia problem. That's Mr. Mueller's. Leave it to Mr. Mueller.
Yeah, but the problem is we have a president here who also doesn't seem to be, he doesn't trust the people he doesn't know, including H.R. McMaster. That's, how concerned, I mean, you know, that continues.
It should be very concerning. Look, I'm a Democrat, but I pray that Priebus doesn't leave, right? Because it would be disastrous for a White House. We'll see a White House in free fall. That's not good for any American right now, especially with the troubles that are brewing overseas. I'm actually rooting for this White House, and I'm a Democrat.
It does feel like, this ultimately comes down to, does Donald Trump have the ability to compartmentalize the Bob Mueller investigation or not?
I don't think he's going to have that. I mean, I think as a reporter who's covered him for more than a year now, there's no way that he's going to just stop tweeting. He's going to stop talking about Russia. He's going to stop feeling besieged, because I think he's taking this super personal. The narrative really is that they're out to get me and that they're treating me unfairly, and look at how terrible Washington is treating me. That is the narrative that's coming out of the White House right now, and that's not how presidents are supposed to act, and also that's not how his own party wants to act. I talked to so many people who really want to pass legislation. The Republicans for 8 years had a laundry list of things they wanted to get done, and they have people that voted for Donald Trump who are like, I need a job. I need you to give me better health care. I don't like Obamacare. There are all these other things that are going on. I was just out in rural Mississippi riding around with people who don't have running water and no electricity. Those people need this nation to pass legislation to help their lives, and that's just not happening right now.
Hugh, do you understand the motivation even behind this tweet about 51 votes, which is already the case for both issues?
Yes.
Or was it just sort of him grasping to show, hey, I want to pivot?
No, lots of people on the left during President Obama's tenure wanted the legislative veto, the legislative filibuster to go. Many people on the right wanted to go. It's not going anywhere. Mitch McConnell has said it's not going anywhere. It's gone for personnel. Harry Reid.
But on these two actual topics, it is gone.
It is.
Technically. Technically, it is. That's what made it so odd.
You can move through on reconciliation, a lot to be done, but you cannot. You can't gainsay the fact that with 15 circuit court judge vacancies and a 51-vote margin, that you haven't moved those names. To a certain extent, it doesn't add up. What's more important, and I want to go back to something Misha said, a lot of people are waiting for a lot of things. They're different constituencies. They have to move the ball forward for some of his core constituency. You were in Mississippi, I was in Cleveland, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. Those people want a health care replacement bill, and some of the people in California want a corporate tax cut immediately. These are things that are doable. They're doable with 51 votes. They just have to focus and execute.
All right, we're going to pause here. You guys are sticking around.